There you are. Welcome back. You've read that right. 87 days of 3D printing. My largest 3D printing project ever.
Most impressive.
Back in January 2020, Neil Patrick Harris tweeted that he was looking to get into 3D printing, and a large number of people replied saying you should talk to Joel, and I thank them for that. Fast forward a little bit, and behind the scenes, my producer David Tobin was working his connections and found a connection to Neil's people, reached out, and that is what got us to that live stream where Neil and family got that Prusa Mark III out of the box and printing the whistle that became the kid's new dad.
It actually worked. I didn't think it would work.
That's so cool.
That was awesome, and the feedback from that was fantastic. And what I get to tell you now is another project was in the plans. Neil had an idea for these large frames to go on either side of a room with some custom canvas prints in them, and he wanted those frames to be 3D printed. So he reached out to us to ask if it was possible, and sure enough, that is very possible.
Yes.
And with that, we reached out to Garrett and Chelsea of Chaos Cortec, and we got on a Zoom call. This is how it went.
So I have this weird idea that I wanted to try and do for our house here called Funhouse Farm, where I wanted to take portrait painting and I wanted to make it individualized. So I want to take a portrait, but before I print it out, I'm adding my own face or my husband's face or my kids' faces or something to these portraits. And I'm learning Photoshop on my own and trying to do it on my own to see if I can make it look in kind of a Harry Pottery way, like it's the same portrait, but if you look up close, you go, wait a second, that looks like our daughter Harper as the image. And so that's all fine and good, and I'm moving along well with that. But I need to think about the frames of these because they need to be as elegant and ornate as the art.
Okay.
Hey, hold on,
How
my
many
son's
more?
here. So we're recording this,
Oh.
so
Hi.
no curse words. This is
Hi.
Gideon.
Hi.
We're gonna make this out of a 3D printer, well, multiple 3D printers, and then they're gonna design these cool parts that'll all sort of click together, and then we'll glue them together, spray it, distress it. Is something like this good? Hey Joel, can you go back one?
Let's see, this way?
Yeah, or do you think something like that is better?
I think it's got more of like, it just catches my eye more.
Because it's thicker,
Yeah, it's like wider and just,
More bold.
chunkier.
I like,
Before you arrived, we
Yeah.
can't share the screen. Oh, look, I see. Those
I know.
corner pieces.
the corner pieces.
Real
for
quick,
sure.
aren't we supposed to be in school right now?
No, it's like,
Oh, it's lunchtime. All right, go eat lunch, and I'm going to finish this meeting. I'll be done in a second.
Geez, Dad.
What are you doing up here? It's the middle of the week. Okay, here's the thing about Gideon. He's wrong. And, and I'm his father. And
Right.
so I think the previous one is better.
The Zoom call was wonderful, and Garrett and Chelsea got to work and created an amazing, ornate, multi-piece frame that Neil just fell in love with.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
So now the goal was to get it 3D printing. And to do this, I needed some help. And so I purchased a CR30 from Pooch at Repcord, and he personally delivered it, and you actually saw him and I show off these machines on the wall.
Belts, belts, belts.
Now I've got machines, a whole bunch of them, and specifically ones to print really long parts. Now it was time for the filament, and what I did is I reached out to Dave over at Printed Solid, and I said, Dave, you up for helping us with this? Sure enough, Dave was with it.
Sure, happy to help. Will this be enough?
Machines are ready, the filament is here, it's time to 3D print, and to tell you that there was a lot of it is an understatement. Like I said, this was the largest 3D printing project I've ever done. 87 days worth of 3D printing was happening here in the studio. Do you want to see the parts?
Right, this is gonna be fun.
This isn't even all of the parts. Let me go get the rest. Oh, there we go. And here's the long pieces right here. To put this into perspective, This is one complete frame project, and I printed 3 of these frames in total. Oh, these pieces are amazing. The printed solid filament worked really well. As an example, this is a decorative piece that goes around the frame. I printed this on the G-Max 2. Each one took roughly 15 hours, but in total I needed 12 of these, which means 7.5 days worth of 3D printing just for this piece. This piece right here, this was printed with the Prusa Mark III, the Anycubic Viper, and the Prusa Mini. I needed 36 of these in total, which equated to 14 days worth of 3D printing just for these pieces. I know, these long pieces here, you really want to know more about these. These are the short pieces of the frame, and so these are the top and bottom, with the longer pieces being the sides. 6 of these in total were printed, and that is 12 days on its own of 3D printing. Last but not least, I don't know if you can see this. This is a massive, massive piece right here, and I needed 6 of these in total. Any guesses? Nah, you're never gonna guess this. And remember, I have 3 CR30s going, and so 6.5 days each. 87 days of 3D printing. Like I said, I printed 3 frames in total. 1 here so I could show you all of the frame pieces. 2 overnighted to Neil and his family so they could get to work finishing these frames. And in fact, they're there. I gotta help. I'll see you in New York.
This is 120.
Yeah, this is 120. This is fine. This is gonna get it down.
How much, so we're sanding this off now because I didn't want to tape these out, right? And then paint everything.
Yeah.
We need to have plastic on plastic in order to glue them together.
That's right.
Properly, right?
Yeah, this stuff is 3D glue, and it's a plastic, it's a chemical bond between the plastics. And so if there's paint in the way, it's not gonna work as well. And it takes me just, a little bit. And look at it, we're down to plastic there, so it's not
Is this enough? Or do you want to do get it completely white and clean?
As long as there's some plastic to kind of meld together.
I hear you.
Yeah. You really did good though. This looks pretty good. This looks pretty good, man.
Yeah,
it's like you know what you're doing.
All right, let's finish sanding. So then we can gloop, baby.
We can gloop it up.
Gloop, there it is.
How's it looking over there? Oh, it's looking good.
It's looking good. To be honest, I'm not super worried about it being perfect at the moment with the adhesion, because I did the work for one, and then I thought it would be a less exciting a video if you just showed up and I had done both of them. I thought it would have been emasculating and also just kind of like and now they're done, right?
Right.
But I did one of them.
Okay.
And I filmed
the
entirety of it, and now you can watch it. Watch this. Roll the clip. Is that what you say? Roll the footage. Is that what you say? Roll it. I printed with my Prusa a bunch of these bad boys. Joel and the gang did all the work because they are professionals, and they have sent me all of the pieces. My job now is to sand them and prime them and paint them.
Just grab my sandpaper and that's what I've been doing for the past. There are all these pieces of muck on them, such as this piece. You see all these? That's what I need. That's what I've been trying to erase for the past 30 minutes.
Hold the can upright, right? There you go, perfect. Nice. Harper's getting some priming in. Hi.
Hi.
I'm gonna glue these pieces together with the gloop. Okay, so I've glued the biscuits. I've glued them to the inside of the frames, and because I can't really glue the actual pieces of the frames because they don't really attach, but the biscuits glue together. So I'm letting that cure on this side. I think what I'm gonna have to do is do the best I can, and then use wood filler, and fill all the edges, then sand all the edges, and then prime. I hear you, Harbor. I mean, that's kind of basic, but that's gonna be a good base, I think. All right, I'll let that dry, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can paint all these bad boys. So, the frames are now attached together. We have some weights and some shims to keep them up. They're still a little wonky. Next step will be wood glue, wood filler. My plan tomorrow is I'll add a second layer of a shinier, like a solid gold. Solid gold! And that'll give it a little dimension. That'll dry, and then the final layer is getting some like dark putty and aging it down. So that'll get inside the nooks and crannies, make it look like it's old. And on the frames themselves, those, I'm gonna start with a coat of darker, like wheel rub bronze vibe. And then we'll put the other layer on top of that, so it'll give it a little bit of depth when the little pieces get onto it. So, successful first day. I probably should have worn a respirator when I was spraying, because man, I'm seeing stars. Not really. All right, good times, more fun tomorrow. Morning. Okay, so I have the frames now, and I have sanded them. I have added wood filler to them for added stability, and I primed them.
Nice.
As you can see, the corners are now pretty set, even though they're gonna have things on top of them. So they're good to go. My first step here is I'm gonna use some darker brown as a first coat of this to give it a little depth. And I'll cover that with the gold, just so it'll add a little differentiation between those pieces and the smaller pieces that are gonna adorn it. We'll get first coat on here, and then gold, and then we start adhering. What's that I'm adhering? It's birds. Dad joke.
Perfectionists.
So you did priming, sanding,
Yep.
priming, painting.
Yep.
You did a wash to kind of give it some depth, a little bit of shadow, darkness.
Indeed.
And then is that it?
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That looks
Because I
fantastic.
have that working for me with this job is because I want these to feel like found objects, these frames, and not to be something that is brand new. So that's helpful. Imperfections work to my advantage on this
right,
one, you know?
exactly.
Because if this has been in some attic for 150 years, it can have a nick in it, or it can be discolored in certain ways, and that's
Well, it
actually
should. It
better.
should. And so I like it.
This is so cool putting it all together.
This is really neat. And I'm really happy about this because, well, thank you for letting me help finish it, but it was 87 days of 3D printing.
That's nuts.
And
And then you wind up as you can see, with these, stacks of these very strange things that don't look framey at all. And even when the frame itself, putting it together, just seems like a frame, you don't. Oh, I should have held that one in there a little bit longer. But no, now that they all start attaching, and then you can see the design, the single pieces combining together to make linear space, very cool.
One of the things that I think is really cool and just blows my mind is how this was created. Because if I look at this, I've done some 3D modeling, but I would have no idea how to approach this. And when Garrett and Chelsea made this, and they said, well, how do you want me to cut it up? And I told them we would be printing it on different printers, and they're like, okay. And then this appeared. All of these pieces just appeared, and I was like, my brain exploded because not only was it made to be able to be 3D printed really well, but it was made to go together in an easy way with flat attachment points and like this and this hiding the seam. That's brilliant.
Brilliant idea. It's an amazing skill to be able to think about a finished thing and break it into its, you know, smaller parts.
I agree. Because
when this is done, it's gonna look like a $5,000 frame. You could not get this at a framing shop.
Well,
and yet it didn't cost that much money.
No, in filament,
in point of fact.
Let's see, this was printed solid filament. I want to say 15 kilograms worth of filament. It's roughly, we'll say $20 per kilogram. We're looking at $300 worth of filament for all of it.
Wow. Are you putting gloop on both sides?
No. I am just
neither.
Because a lot of the piece isn't going to have a contact point. I figured just putting it on the frame where it's going to touch would be okay.
Fair.
If for some reason someone were to put 3D gloop on a place that wasn't going to stick,
what would you say to that?
I would say that is good forward thinking, but probably doesn't need to go forward anymore. I think one of the important things that we're going to showcase here is that when it's up on the wall, no one is really going to be able to tell it's been 3D printed. I mean, you'll know, your husband will know, your kids will know, but other than that, like, people will come through your house and be like, whoa, that's really cool. And you'll be able to reveal something to them and they'll be like, what?
Super into that. And yes, I want it to be psychological too, because these are gonna be amongst other actual wooden frames, some of which are pretty ornate. So I want these to draw your attention, but not take away from the rest of the room.
Right.
So it's kind of perfect. That's why we dealt a lot with the color and trying to make sure that it was dark and muted and aged enough.
That makes sense.
That you didn't just see these two super shiny pieces amongst real wooden pieces. I'm just gonna say something like, oh yeah, this has been in my family for 4 generations. This frame is Ebenezer wood and costs $11,000.
$11,000, absolutely.
I'm not gonna say it's a 3D printed thing. You kidding? That's like a magician revealing his secrets.
Well, you're not gonna tell.
Only we know the truth.
I'm sure you'll tell some people.
No, for sure. Only when I'm bragging.
Right, exactly.
Which is often. Getting close.
This is actually coming together.
I know.
Neil, this is the final reveal of this amazing project. It is 87 days of 3D printing, overnight shipping, all sorts of creative work here.
Layers of paint, spray paint.
Everything. All the creative processes that went into this. Do you want to count us down?
I'm so excited for you guys to see this because, well, yes, we should count us down. 3, 4, 6.
First thoughts, what are you thinking?
Well, I just can't believe a multitude of things. They look like very expensive, very historic frames.
They look old.
They look like they've been in existence for a long time. They don't look modern, they don't look plastic. And then these images I found and doctored.
I heard you used your Photoshop skills.
I learned some Photoshoppery. So yeah, that's me and that's David, and they're gonna go up on either side of a fireplace. And I just feel like they're museum quality, man. I can't believe we did it.
I love that the look of these is not 3D printed. These look like finished antique frames, like you said.
For sure. And I had friends here for days. Our friends Michael and Taylor were here, and they helped do all these like dark spots in between. Otherwise, it just felt like one color, and it just looks like you found it in an attic, man. This is exactly what I was hopeful for.
Frames were designed by Garrett and Chelsea at Chaos Core Tech.
Indeed.
And filaments were provided by Dave over at Printed Solid.
Indeed.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears by Neil and team.
Yeah, now I just have to put a wire on the back of them and hang them on the wall.
Yeah, we'll let you get those on the wall. In fact, our time at Funhouse Farms is coming to a close. We have to get to the airport.
Indeed.
Thank you for your hospitality. I really, really appreciate it for myself and my team. If you want to learn more about Funhouse Farms or any of the really cool stuff that Neil is doing, where can they go?
I'm NPH on the Instagram, and I'm actually NPH on the Twitter. And you can go to wondercade.com. It's a newsletter I'm working on. Sign up for that, and you'll see more cool stuff like this. That's it.
I love it. Well, if you made it this far, you're awesome. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Hug each other more, or hug each other more often. I think it's the right way to say it. I'm tired. I'm sorry. And as always, high five. Aw. Friend. We're on location at a special place, and we're playing with lasers.
Lasers? Pew, 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 pew. I can't wait, man. Pew.
Not those kind of lasers. It's great.